Hey up everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all well and you're looking after yourselves. Tonight's video is going to be Parramatta Eels and their worst ever losses, or their most embarrassing ever losses, and that's, in my opinion, the matches that I've watched. So last night I did Parramatta's best ever wins, or my favourite wins in my opinion, and tonight it's going to be the worst. So I've been a Parramatta supporter all my life, as you probably already know, and because of the hat dead giveaway. But being a supporter of this club, it's not easy. There's a lot of lows and the occasional highs, but mainly lows. I think to be a Parramatta fan, you either have to be born into it, and you have no choice in the matter, or you're either crazy, one of the two. It's not a club that I would recommend that you would support if you had your own free will. But I was born into a Parramatta family, so I didn't really have much of a choice in the matter. But I'm going to go through some of their most embarrassing losses, or the losses that I've experienced that hurt me the most. And let's just get straight into the video, shall we? So the first one was in round 5, 1993. And we played against Canterbury Bankstown, our arch rivals, at Belmore Oval. And it was on a day called Multicultural Day, and there was a record attendance of 27,000 that went to watch this match. And Canterbury absolutely belted us, embarrassed us, humiliated us, and we ended up losing 42 points to 6. The next match, round 21, in the same year, we played against Canberra. Canberra were red hot that year. They were one of the favourites to win the Premiership. We were nowhere near even the top 8. We were down towards the bottom of the table, and Canberra absolutely smashed us 68-0. And I remember at the time I was only a little one, and I was watching it and I was kind of going, what's happening? This is awful. And we were up against the likes of Manly-Warringah, Bradley Clyde, Steve Walters, Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, those type of players. So I mean, we got smashed 68-0. It's the worst loss in the club's history. Then we go forward to 1998, the preliminary final against Canterbury. So I've mentioned this in a few of the other videos. We were up 18-2 with less than 10 minutes to play, about 9 minutes to be precise. And somehow Canterbury come back and made it 18-all, and then we ended up losing in extra time 32 points to 20. I'd say out of all these losses that I'm going to go through, this one's hurt the most. I've never really gotten over it, as you can imagine. If it happened to your club, you'd probably be the same way, in the fetal position. Yes. I still don't know to this day how we lost that match. You will never ever see a game like that ever again, especially a finals match where a team's that far in front with so little time on the clock, and for some reason they lose. The next year, the 1999 preliminary final against Melbourne, so 12 months in down the line. This game as well, I remember it really well for the wrong reasons, because it was on my birthday. So we were up against Melbourne. We'd come second that year. We were favourites to win this match. We were favourites to meet Cronulla in the grand final that year, and we were up 16-0 at half time. Now, you'd think if you were Brian Smith and the players, you'd be thinking, we've been in this situation before. Oh, that's right, yeah, 12 months earlier, we were in exactly the same situation. And what do? Now, let's make sure it doesn't happen again. Anyway, we go out there with 16-0 at half time, and we end up losing 18-16 to Melbourne, who go on to play St George the next week and win the Premiership. I honestly think that if we would have beaten Melbourne, we would have won the Premiership that year, but that's just me biased opinion. I'm sure most of you St George or Melbourne fans would disagree with me on that one. 2001 NRL Grand Final. As I said last night, it was probably one of the most dominant seasons in the modern game. We set all kinds of records that still haven't been broken by any other club. We were the shortest priced favourites in modern rugby league history. I think we were only about a quid to win. So even if you put 500 quid on, you wouldn't even get anything out of it. Um, Newcastle had a good team that year, but they weren't expected to win. I remember all the posters and all the pre-game stuff. It was all year of the eel, and this is Parramatta's moment to break that premiership drought. And I remember watching the game, and I was sat there at half time down 24 now, and I'm thinking, what just happened? Am I dreaming? Is this real? I was just shell shocked. We ended up coming back in the second half. We decided to play in the second half. We ended up losing 30 points to 24. I think if rugby league was a 90-minute game like football and it wasn't 80 minutes, I think we would have won, because we outscored Newcastle 24 points to 6 in the second half. And even in the final moments of the match, when we were throwing the ball around, Newcastle they were pretty thin on the edges and they were looking pretty tired. We were coming home with a wet seal, but we just run out of time. The next game, 2005 preliminary final against North Queensland. So that year we were minor premiers again. We were coming up against the North Queensland side that had lost by nearly 50 points the 2 weeks prior against the West Tigers. We were favourites to win the premiership that year, and we were favourites to beat North Queensland. And we ended up playing one of the worst matches I've ever seen in my life as a Parramatta fan. We ended up losing 29-0 at the Olympic Stadium. And it was just a soul-crushing experience. I remember leaving the ground and there was people setting their jerseys on fire and setting flags on fire. And then when I was waiting for the train, it was just dead silence. I mean, there was thousands of people waiting for the train to go back to wherever, and everyone was just in silence. Everyone was just shell-shocked. Like, what the fuck happened here? Because there was about 50,000 people at the match, and I'd see about 99% of them were Parramatta fans. And it was the quietest train ride I've ever had in my life, ever. Just picture being huddled, crammed into a train, and everyone's just staring at the ground like this. I'm not seeing now. And it was like that the whole way home. It was just an eerie feeling. It was like someone had died. And then I remember hopping back in the car, and as I was driving home, I flicked it on 2GB, and there was just call after call of just these angry, bloodthirsty Parramatta fans who were giving it to... I think Ree Hadley was the person taking all the phone calls, and people were going, "What the fuck was that?" And "I want me fucking membership money back, and that's fucking disgraceful," and all that keeper. And the people were fucking ropeable. They were really upset. And I was just shell-shocked. It was just a horrible feeling. Going forward to some other matches now, round 22, 2011, we were coming towards the bottom of the ladder that year, and we played against South Sydney, who, mind you, they weren't even in finals contention. They had naught to play for. Their season was over as well. And we lost 56 points to 6 at the Olympic Stadium. We got absolutely embarrassed. And then the next year, we played South Sydney in round 25, 2012. And on that occasion, this match is famous. This moment's been replayed for ages. We were getting belted, and then Chris Sando tries to do a shoulder charge or some sort of a daft tackle on Greg Inglis, and Greg Inglis just goes whack, and Sando goes flying through the air like that. And the fans were laughing at Parramatta, the commentators were laughing at Parramatta, even Peter Stadlin was laughing at us, thinking, how fucking shite is this team? And it was just capped off by Chris Sando. We ended up losing that match 38 points to 6. And then the following week, this is another match. So round 26, 2012, we played against St George at the Olympic Stadium. We'd already been confirmed as wooden spooners, and it was Luke Bate, who is Entertain House's favourite player of all time, and Nathan Hindmarsh. It was his last game, my favourite player of all time. And what a way to be sent out. I mean, it was a humiliating night. We got thrashed by St George. It was two of our club legends' last matches, and we send them out as wooden spooners and losers. And then to cap it all off, the game was due to be scheduled at Parramatta Stadium. So Parramatta and the NRL, in their infinite wisdom, decided to move the ground to the Olympic Stadium. So Nathan Hindmarsh and Luke Burt didn't even get to play their final match in front of their own fans. They had to play it in this half-empty Olympic Stadium. It was such a shite day, and I know that Nathan Hindmarsh and Luke Burt kind of look back on it now and kind of go, it's a memory, but it's a shite memory to have. Your last game and you wooden spoon and you get sent out a loser, get embarrassed by St George. The next game is round 4, 2013. That year we finished as wooden spooners, and you try not to sound negative, but there's when your team's going bad, you just know that no matter what happens in the match, that you're gonna lose. And especially with the roster that we had that year, there really wasn't much hope. So when we played against the Eastern Suburbs at the Sydney Football Stadium round 4, and they beat us 50-0. We got absolutely embarrassed that day. And then round 24 of the same year, we played against Melbourne, down in Melbourne. So Melbourne's a tough team to beat down there at the best of times, but when you've got a shite roster and you're wooden spooners, you can expect to get smashed, and we did. We lost 64 points to 4. And we got absolutely humiliated that day. Not a good day to be a Parramatta fan. Then the next match was round 6 in 2015. I went to this game. It was the Gold Coast against Parramatta, and we'd had an indifferent start of the year, but we were playing against a Gold Coast team that were low in confidence, hadn't really won that many games to start the year, and they beat us 38 points to 16. So they put 38 points on us, and I remember they're actually winning about 38 points to 4, and if it wasn't for some late tries, we would have been absolutely smashed. So we got embarrassed at home by the Gold Coast, who weren't playing that well, and that wasn't a particularly good day. Then the next game was the same year, round 13 against North Queensland. This game was recently replayed on the NRL.com website, and we were up 30 points to 6 with about 25 minutes to go, and North Queensland ended up winning that match 36 points to 30. And I remember Jonathan Thurston did the same play about 4 times. So the old saying is, call me stupid once, shame on you, call me whatever twice. I don't know the actual saying. I forget how it goes, but he did the same play 4 times. He just grubbed it in the line 4 times, and 3 of those occasions Gavin Cooper jumped over to score a try, and I'm thinking, you think, okay, after the first time, okay, second time, no, third time, inexcusable. It was just embarrassing how easy some of those tries were scored. Then in 2017, we had a great year that year, but at the start of the year we played against the Gold Coast in round 3. Now the Gold Coast, I remember this particular match, they had a lot of injuries to start the year, and in this particular game they were down to 13 men. They had no bench. All their bench was injured, so they played pretty much nearly the whole match with 13 players, and they beat us 26 points to 14. And I reckon it's one of the most embarrassing and it's one of the worst games I've ever seen us play, and it was just so embarrassing because we had fresh 17 players and we got outclassed by the Gold Coast, and they only had 13 players. Then in the same year we played against North Queensland in the 2017 elimination final. Now, North Queensland had made the finals series that year by default. They only made the finals because St George lost their final round match. And we nearly beat Melbourne the week before, so we went into the match confident. We didn't play that great in the first half, but we were better than North Queensland, and we went into the break 10-6. In the second half, we were still on top until Michael Morgan put up this nothing bomb. And for some reason, our standing fullback, Will Smith, lets the ball bounce. And then he grabs it on the second bounce, and then John Asiata, who's a Parramatta junior, but we let him go, took the ball out of Will Smith's hands and scored underneath the post, and the whole crowd went silent. There was about, I think, 45,000 fans at the ground, and I think 44,500 were Parramatta fans. And we ended up losing that match, I think 24 points to 16, and it was one of the most deflating experiences, because before I went to this match I went, I don't want 2005 to happen again, because this is our moment to get our revenge on North Queensland. And once again we lost against North Queensland. I remember walking out to the car park and I was with our lass, and she says, "This is so deflating, I feel like shite. This is really, I feel really depressed." And I went, "Yeah, welcome to my world. This is what it's like supporting Parramatta pretty much every year. You'll get used to it." And then in round 2, 2018, we played against Manly, and I remember this day. It was really, really hot. I think it was over 40 degrees, and it was at Brookfield Oval, and Manly beat us 54 points to nil. Now, most people would say, "Oh yeah, it's only round 2, we'll bounce back," even though it's really embarrassing and a disgusting display. What people don't know is that this is a really interesting fact, and I've said it before. No team has conceded 50 points in a match and gone on to win the Premiership since 1908. No club's done it. That's 112-year rugby league, and no club's done it. And pretty much, because I believe that stat, and I was just thinking to myself, fuck, it's only round 2 and our season's already over. So I pretty much knew from that match that our season was done. Even if we recovered from that, we wouldn't win the Premiership. And the last match I'm going to include on this list, it's a very long list. It's like a Christmas list. It's the Magic Round last year, the game that Entertain House went to. And I feel sorry for the lad, because he actually paid for the tickets and flew up there or drove up there, and he actually had to sit there and watch the game. Luckily for me, I was listening to it on the radio, and I had the luxury of turning it off. We ended up losing that match 64 points to 10. I think it was one of the worst displays I've ever seen from a Parramatta side. Some of the tries were comical, lots of shirt grabbing. There was one try where I think Ryan Pappenhausen scored, and it was like Parramatta were on the Benny Hill show. We're all running this way and then we're all running that way, and it was just a comedy. And there's just something about when we play against Melbourne, they make us look like fucking idiots. It's so frustrating. If you know me thoughts on Melbourne, it makes it even worse. So anyway, that's me worst ever Parramatta games that I've had to experience or watch video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you made it all the way to the end and didn't get too depressed. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you enjoyed the content that I've been making the last couple of weeks, months, consider subscribing to my channel. Click that notification bell so you get an email when I do a new video. And if you have some spare time, go over to Rugby League History. That's my Facebook page. I'll put a link in the description below. And I also run the Instagram page as well, which I started maybe 3-4 weeks ago. I'll put a link in the description next to that. But anyway, catch us all later, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Ta-ra.